Yeah, I'd like to take this time to deconstruct and expose this deceptive, odious concept of racism and the slur racist. Now, in order to do this, I'd like to give some background on just how this term, this concept originated, and how we kind of got to where we are today. Now, in the beginning, about 80 years ago or so, when this term was first conjured up, um, a racist, the implied definition of a racist, was someone who had an irrational hatred for someone of another race for no other reason than they were different and that they were an angry person and they needed somebody to kick. Now, that type of person does sound unreasonable, especially at that time. So it would be something that normal good people would oppose naturally. But here's the thing: even back then, even 5, 6, 7, 8 decades ago, that type of person was relatively rare. Even then, and today, that type of person is almost unheard of. So, but then you ask, well, okay, then how does this concept gain so much traction then? If even back then it was a small, just a very, very small number of people. And that's a good question. Obviously, the people pushing this concept have gained a lot of power and influence and have been able to carefully craft the narrative. But how's this narrative been carefully crafted? Well, they've kind of changed the actionable definition, whereas the implied definition has stayed the same. But the actionable definition that they've changed in small increments over time, whereas like decades ago, a racist was someone with an irrational hatred of other races, whereas now, I hate using the term, but the R word is any white person who stands up for their rational self-interests and won't be pushed around and will perhaps have positive things to say about their own race and combine maybe with some negative critiques of other races. Well, that's a far cry from the original implied definition. But see, that's where this has been so carefully crafted, and how people controlling this narrative have been so devious, is that even though the actionable definition of this word is changed, the implied definition and the stigma attached to it has not. In fact, the stigma attached to it has just increased over time. And the only way that's been possible, again, the people pushing this narrative have a lot of power and influence in media, education, and entertainment, which allows them to brainwash and manipulate the public in a direction favorable to them, but not so favorable to the average white person. And over time, have been able to pathologize just natural, normal behaviors, but only for one race, you see. So having said all this, the word racist should never come out of your mouth. Never, and never under any circumstances call a fellow white person this R word, ever. Because you just, when you use their terminology, you validate their ideology, and their ideology is purely anti-white, and that racist is just an anti-white slur. And the concept of racism is a concept that's brought Western civilization to its knees and put our civilization on the precipice of complete, utter destruction. So this concept of racism should never be given any credit or any respect whatsoever. That you never endorse a narrative that would validate this odious and deceptive concept, this very anti-white concept.